Hi everybody, welcome to The Verdict. We've got 6 races to have a look at this week. We will utilise the RaceIQ data to analyse some really good contests. We've got a couple from Epsom, we've got a couple from Sandown and 2 from Navan as well. And we will start at Epsom. It was their first meeting of the season. Let's have a look at the winners and times from day one. Night on Earth taking the opening contest. Bellum Justum winning the Blue Ribbon Trial. We'll have a look at that race shortly. The time wasn't too bad at 2:08.75, 2.95 outside. Crystal Delight, impressive. We'll look at that as well. Champagne Piaf landed a gamble and into battle, and Portsmouth won the last couple of races. All of those times above standard. The best time of the day, well, that was put up by Crystal Delight. More of that Harry Eustace trained horse later on. We start with Bellum Justum in the Blue Ribbon Trial, and we ask whether we've seen a potential Derby winner, or at least a horse that can run well in the Derby. This is how they bet for the trial. It had listed status, and Chief Little Rock was 4-5. Feigning Madness was 4-1. Bit of money around for that one. Not much for Arabic Legend. He was a bit of a drifter. There was money for Bellum Justum, 9s from 12s. Defiance drifted out to 10s from 8s, and Birdie Bye was 100-1. The big outside of the lot. So the favourite, trained by Aidan O'Brien. Ryan Moore on board, coming from out wide, finishes third in the end from stall 4. The winner, Bellum Justum from 6, Defiance from 5, and then Ryan Moore on Chief Little Rock, who goes straight to the front from stall number 4. And he gets his own way out in front. On that basis, he's perhaps a little bit disappointing, Chief Little Rock. Bellum Justum has just driven up into second place. Now, they're going uphill here at Epsom from the 1.25 mile start, and they're going very steady. Ryan Moore is taking them along at a pedestrian gallop. The winner is in a very good position. Look at the runner-up, sat last at this stage. Defiance, a little bit keen up the hill and poorly placed the way the race develops. Oisin Murphy, on the other hand, on Bellum Justum's in a great spot. Now, the finishing speed percentage here is quick. It's 113.85 for the winner. That's telling us that the winner came home 13.85% quicker than he ran the earlier part of the race. Now, that tells us 2 things. 1, that Bellum Justum can quicken up, and he's a horse with plenty of speed, but 2, that he was able to go steady early on and save energy for that fast finish. And indeed, all of the runners in this race finished quite quickly. They all returned a finishing speed percentage above 110. So that's some further evidence that this is steadily run, and it just turns into a bit of a sprint. The first 7 furlongs, according to the sectionals, if you delve into them, well, they tell us that they crawled along, and then suddenly the pace picked up after 7 furlongs. They went from a 12.36 to an 11.32, a real surge of pace. About now, from the 3-pole to the 2-pole, they're really picking up and coming home fast. Chief Little Rock boxing on well, showing a good attitude. Here comes Defiance, widest of all, but he's poorly placed. He had way too much to do, and the winner is now going 10.69, a 10.61, and 11.7. He's a horse real speed. 2 sub-11 second furlongs puts Chief Little Rock away, but Defiance is doing something quite incredible from the back of the field. He's got a horse quickening in front of him, but he's able to close that horse down from a very poor position, running on really strongly. And indeed, he fired the fastest final 3 furlongs in the race. He came home 32.74, 33 dead for the winner. So Defiance has shaped really well. Give him a sectional upgrade. And I fancy that if they were to meet again in a more strongly run race, and Defiance was perhaps slightly better placed, then he will beat this winner if they meet again. Bellum Justum is a talented horse. He handled the track well. He'll probably stay the Derby distance as well. Same can be said for Defiance, though, who's come home really well. And I fancy he's the horse to take out of the Blue Ribbon Trial. When you look at the RaceIQ sectionals in terms of the winner, Bellum Justum, you can see where that injection of pace happened. Look at the first 6 furlongs. They're going 13.43, 13.12, 12.84, 12.27. Suddenly, that injection, 11.35 and a 10.69 and a 10.61. That's where the race really picked up. It was falsely run, steadily run. It turned into a dash. Defiance not well placed. Bellum Justum quick enough to win. OK, we're going to stay at Epsom and have a look at the City and Suburban Handicap. Always a competitive race. And Kyprios was favourite at 9-4. Crystal Delight 5-2. 9-2 Dual Identity and Ziggy in there at 5-1. Silent Film 8s, 14s Felix, Western Soldier, an 80-1 shot, going the same trip that they went in the blue ribboned trial. So let's have a look and see what happened out there. It was Crystal Delight who won the race from stall number 3 and got the better of Ziggy and Silent Film. Now look at the speeds out of the stalls here. Crystal Delight took 2.8 seconds to go from noughts, from a standing start to 20 miles an hour. Ziggy, the second horse in this race, 2.93. So Crystal Delight 0.13 quicker out of the stalls, and jockey Jim Crowley made the most of that. Quickly into stride. You can see Ziggy with the towards the rear, but Crystal Delight there has jumped well, jumped quickly into stride and straight to the front under Jim Crowley. There's Ziggy, a little bit further back, just giving that horse about 3 lengths, and then the third horse a little bit further back, that's Silent Film. That's a horse who comes home quite strongly. Keep an eye on him in the latter stages, for he's forced wide when he comes down Tattenham Corner. You can compare this to a degree with the previous contest that we looked at, won by Bellum Justum. Bellum Justum, 2 minutes 8.75. Crystal Delight, 2 minutes 7.33. Now that's telling us just how slowly run the blue ribbon trial was. This is run about 8 lengths quicker, and Crystal Delight still got an easy lead out in front. And as the pace steadied when they got to the top of the hill, and they really were dawdling along in the early part of the race. Finishing speed percentage for the winner, quick, 110.6. So rather like Bellum Justum, he's able to save a lot of energy early on for a really fast finish. And in the closing stages, he shows real sustained speed to put his rivals away. His final splits are very impressive indeed. His final 3 furlongs, well, they were good, 33.59, so just over 11-second furlongs for the final 3. And when a horse gets an easy lead like this and is able to finish that well, they're almost impossible to run down. Kyprios sat in second at this stage, the favourite. I don't think he handled the track, or he didn't really fancy it, because he will hang up the home straight and hang his chance away. He hangs down the camber. This is where the winner fires these quick splits. 11.08, 10.83, 11.06 and 11.7. And under the circumstances, absolutely impossible to run down. He's saved energy, then he's able to sprint in the closing stages, and there's no way they are going to get to him. Now, they are running on in behind, a couple of them. Ziggy for Harry Eustace, who had the 1-2 in this race, he runs on OK, and Silent Film, who was forced wide by Dual Identity on the home turn, runs on under Ryan Moore as well, and nabs 3rd spot in the end. But this was a decisive success. Crystal Delight, the only horse in the final furlong to dip under 12 seconds. So even though it looked like Ziggy and Silent Film were closing him down a little bit in the final furlong, they weren't. The winner was much the best throughout the final 4 furlongs, much quicker than all of the others. Now, this was one off a mark of 88. He's going to take a big hike in the weights, but I think there's a little bit more to come from him. Given fast ground, his 2 career wins have been on ground officially described as good to firm. This one, and also at York last season. So he's a fast ground horse. He got his own way. He was able to dictate here. But don't say, because of that, he's a horse not to be interested in next time. Because look at the speed he showed according to these individual sectionals that he fired. You can see he dawdled along out in front for 5 furlongs, and then suddenly, rather like the Bellum Justum race, he went 12.62 and then quickened 11.83, quickened again 11.08, quickened again 10.83, and another quick furlong 11.06, and he came home in 11.7. So he was very quick through those final few furlongs, and there was no way he was going to be run down going that fast on the front end, having been given an advantage by his rivals. Right, let's make our way from Epsom on Tuesday to Sandown on Friday. Start of a really good couple of days at Sandown, and a very good flat card on the Friday. Here are the winners and the times. We'll look at a couple of races here. We'll look at Arabian Crown, and rather like we did with Bellum Justum, we'll ask whether he is a legitimate Derby contender. He won in quite a slow time, really, 2 minutes 7 over the 10 furlongs, which was 5.61 outside standard. We look at Ceola as well. It's the slowest run race on the card, 9.32 outside standard, but there's a very good reason for having a look at what she achieved on debut. Last week we had a look at the RaceIQ time index. We're going to do so again for Sandown Park, and this is the index which allots a number, a score, to the various races, given what the horses achieved in terms of time and given the class of the race and the going and those sorts of things. And you can see that 4.22 was the score that Arabian Crown achieved, and Ceola 2.13. All of the races just under really what you would normally expect. You'd normally expect a score around about 5 to 6. First race was quite reasonably run, but thereafter quite steadily run and quite a long way under standard, some of them, particularly Ceola. We'll come to Ceola in a bit, but I want to start with Arabian Crown. 6 to 5 on for this Bet365 Classic trial. Macduff 11 to 2, Warriors 11 to 2, Ramard 8s, it's 9s Portland, Under the Sun 20s, 40s, and bigger the rest. It's important to mention that the ground actually good to soft, good in places. Just on the easy side, I think, very much given those times that we just had a look at. Okay, we're going to have a look at Arabian Crown, and you can see that his jump speed from 0 to 20 miles an hour, 2.88 seconds. You can compare that in this race to Portland, for example, the Aidan O'Brien horse who finishes fourth. 3.3 seconds he took to get up to 20 miles an hour. So Arabian Crown, he's out quickly, rather like Crystal Delight at Epsom that we looked at, and able to utilise that quick break and win this race from stall number 9. Macduff second from 2, Ramard third from stall number 1. As I said, Portland was fourth. You can keep an eye on him. Look at Portland there, second last. Look at the difference in the break. How quickly Arabian Crown is into stride and Portland isn't, sat third last. Early in the race, Under the Sun threatens to spoil the Arabian Crown party. William Buick wanted to lead, but look at Under the Sun, keen in the red colours towards the rail, and he threatens to get involved with Arabian Crown early on, to eyeball him. And William Buick there, look, he's had a little look across. He wants to get over. He stayed wide for a while so that he didn't get into a duel. And then when he sees that it's safe to get over, he crosses and gets to the rail. He has a little look there, sees Macduff being quite keen in behind, and now he can just gradually edge across. He's happy now. So it's all a bit messy in the early part of the race. And indeed, they went quite steady early on, and then they picked up from the home turn. William Buick just stepped on the gas a little bit, according to the sectionals, to get to the front, and now he steadies again, going round the bend. So it was a bit messy in terms of pace, a bit stop-start. Arabian Crown from this point in, he holds all of the aces. He's got himself an easy lead. He's 2 or 3 lengths ahead of the rest of the field, and he's going to be quite hard to run down. His finishing speed percentage, 103.98, so he's just 3.98% quicker in the final couple of furlongs than he was in the rest of the race. But having gained an advantage, that was enough. So nothing could actually run him down in the latter part of the contest. Portland came home well, 105.2 his finishing speed percentage. He's almost last at the moment, but he runs on quite well. But he had far too much to do after that tardy start, and he couldn't get anywhere near the winner. Just to reiterate how the pace steadied up, once Buick got to the front and got a clear lead, he went in the 6th furlong 14.39, in the 7th 13.28. So he went really steady, filled his horse up for quite a strong final furlong from him, 13.27, uphill, remember, with some cut in the ground, so it's a bit slower than perhaps what you might expect, but that's because he's going uphill and because he's encountering soft ground. 13.27 for him, the runner-up only 13.55. So he was pretty strong late on. What are we to make of this as a Derby trial? Well, he got his own way, didn't he? I'd be probably stronger on him than I would be on Bellum Justum. He's a nice horse, he's beautifully bred. I think that his strength in that final furlong, I've just highlighted, suggests that he will stay further. He's bred to go further as well. So I think, all in all, he's going to go to Epsom with place chances. That would be how I would read it. He didn't have too hard a time here under William Buick. He didn't have a hard race. Just mentioned Portland. Look, he's running on 2 from the right, and his final 3 furlongs of 37.79 was quicker than the winner at 38.02. But the winner was eased down by Buick a little bit late on. So I'm not going to say that Portland could turn the form around with Arabian Crown. I think Defiance can turn it around with Bellum Justum, not a turnaround as far as this race is concerned. There's just an overall summary for you that RaceIQ produced. There's the finishing speed percentage, right-hand side of your screen, 103.98. You can see that most of the others came home above 100, and that's a function of the steady pace that William set out in front. And he came home the final 3 furlongs in 38.02, 38.11 for Macduff and 38.09 for Ramard. You can see Portland there, 37.79 from a poor position. He was running on quite well. But Arabian Crown held all the aces the way that race was run. Messy in the early part of it, and then Buick took control. I'm going to stay at Sandown because I want to have a look at that race that, when we looked at the times caption, was the slowest run race on the card, and it was a success of, I think, a nice filly in the shape of Ciola, who was 4-1 to take this filly's novice. Beeley went off 5-2 favourite. Deville was 7-2. Ciola was 4s, and it was 5-1 and bigger the rest. I don't think necessarily this is a race with a great deal of strength in depth, but I think the winner is good. 10 furlongs was the trip. Ciola coming from stall 4 for the Gosdens, and William Buick again. Beeley from 1 in second place. Secret Satire from 8 finished 3rd. Jumped quickly, Secret Satire, and made the running and bowled along in front. This horse has had a couple of previous starts, so had the benefit of experience. Now, look where Ciola is. She's plumb last. She's sat last in what is a crawl, a very steadily run race. The 3rd horse, Secret Satire, has got the run of the race, ears pricked, out in front, and they are pretty well strung out. You can see a few of them just pulling, just a little bit keen in behind. Ciola, though, has settled nicely under William Buick, but for all money, she's in a very bad position given how this race was run. It was very steady. She's at a massive positional disadvantage, sat in 8th. The pace does pick up the final 3 furlongs, but that doesn't faze her because she comes home really well. A finishing speed percentage of 109.09 was good enough to run down all of her rivals, and she really learnt on the job, and you'll see that her final furlong is very strong indeed. The last 3 furlongs, well, 37.25 for her compared to the runner-up 37.57. She really did come home nice and strongly, and she was learning all the time. There's a lot more to come from her. That was the midsection of the race that Secret Satire just took them through. Listen to these were steady fractions. 14.11, 15.67. Wow, that's slow. And 13.45. This was an absolute crawl until about now, when they start to pick up and William Buick begins to try and make some ground on Ciola, learning all the time in between horses, and she's going to pick up in very good style and come home well. Now, once again, we've not got rapid finishes in this race. We haven't got horses going 10.9 or 11.2, but she does enough to win this with a final furlong of 12.88, much better than her rivals, because she was the only horse to go under 13 seconds. Look, she's really getting the hang of things here. William Buick's got hold of her, and she's picking up, and she's very strong now through that final furlong. That's a really nice effort. He didn't really get hold of her. He didn't give her a hard time. She's had a lovely introduction. She'll have learned coming between horses, and that final furlong was very impressive when he really grabbed hold of her. You might have seen one horse flashing home in 4th place. That was Crystal Flyer, widest of all, wide right, came home quite well, finished 4th, and second fastest final furlong in the race from Crystal Flyer. Only 4th, but the second fastest final furlong behind the winner, Ciola. So Crystal Flyer, perhaps a horse to keep an eye on. You could possibly put that horse in your racing TV tracker for a minor event, but it's anything but minor events, in my opinion, for this winner. This is a summary of the race. That's a final time of 2:16.32. That's not flash over 10 furlongs, but that's courtesy of the steady pace. 37.25 was how she came home in the final 3 furlongs, and 109.09 her finishing speed percentage, just hands and heels from William Buick. I'll put my neck on the line. I don't know which race she'll be in, but I think she's a Royal Ascot filly. OK, let's make our way to Navan. They stage a really good card on Saturday afternoon. It's still the return of Kyprios. We'll get to him a little bit later on. Those are the winners from the card. Azalea was a good winner of the 252 for the Dermot Well team on a seasonal reappearance, beating Purple Lily. Purple Lily was thought to be an Irish 1,000 guinea horse. Azalea is now thought to be possibly an Oaks candidate. There's Kyprios, a 2-13 favourite. He won the 4 o'clock. He won this race a couple of years ago. I want to start, though, with a 2-year-old. Aidan O'Brien's first 2-year-old winner of the season in the 145. Camille Pissarro, 10-11 to win this. Sorella Carina was 100-30. Dr. Ali was 6-1 and it was 10-1 and bigger the rest. Just shy of 6 furlongs, the ground described as good to yielding. Let's have a look at Camille Pissarro from 8, who beat New Theory from 2 and Dr. Ali from stall number 3. This race last year was won by Aidan O'Brien as well. It was won with Ribber Tiber, who went on to land the Coventry. He went to Nace after this, dropped in trip and won over 5 furlongs at Nace, and then went on and landed the Coventry. And I suspect that'll be the same route for Camille Pissarro, this son of Wootton Bassett, racing close up to the pace in what was quite a steadily run race. Remember, we're only going just shy of 6 furlongs, and they didn't go mad here. They crawled along in the early part of it, and it wasn't that strongly run. And amidst, well, obvious greenness, the winner was able to come home 4.51% quicker in the final couple of furlongs than he ran the rest of the race. So he did quicken up pretty well. His final 2 furlongs, 25.63. Now look at him as he's trying to pick up and fire that last couple of furlongs at 25.63. He's hanging left. Ryan Moore's trying to get him straightened. He wants to go to his left. There he goes, look. Ryan's had to grab the right rein and pull him from hanging in behind horses. And now it's just hands and heels from Ryan. And in a moment, he'll give him a tap with his right hand there, just one, to educate him. And look what happens then. Afterburners come on, and he puts another 3/4 of a length or so between himself and New Theory. The runner-up here was 25.81. That's for context, whereas the winner was 25.63. So that's the context of the final couple of furlongs. And a strong final furlong from the winner, given conditions, 13.51 with the runner-up at 13.74. But it has to be said, the runner-up, New Theory, the big white face, had a much harder race than this fellow, Camille Pissarro, who is surely going to be Coventry bound. He's been installed as the 7-2 favourite. Given his greenness and how strongly he travelled early on in the race, I think there's a load more to come from him. A nice sharpener at Nace, possibly over 5 furlongs, and then the Coventry for him. He's sure to be a player. Let's have a look at the return of Kyprios now in the Vintage Crop Stakes. Listed status for this race over 1 mile and 6 furlongs. He was 2-13 as he deserved to be. Dawn Rising 7-1. It was 16s Yashin and Queenstown 22s, 25s and bigger the rest. And he gets the job done as you'd expect him to do, given his price and given his class. He came from stall number 5, Queenstown from number 3, and Yashin was third from stall number 1. His stable companion Queenstown took them along and gave him a lovely lead. Queenstown slow out of the stalls but asked to go forward, and Ryan Moore's going to slot across as and when he can. He's having a look now to try and get to the rail on Kyprios there in the red cap, big white face, and he gets a nice lead through this contest. Remember that a couple of years ago he had a fantastic season, winning 6 times, and what he did that year was win this race. And then he went on and won the Savile Beg, and then he went to Royal Ascot. And rather like Camille Pissarro, who might be following in the footsteps of Ribber Tiber, Kyprios might be following in his own footsteps from a couple of years ago. He was beaten twice last year, of course, and Ryan Moore, when he got off him on Saturday, said that he was to blame for this horse's defeat on Champions Day behind Trawlerman and Frankie Dettori. But Kyprios here has proved, I think, that the engine is very much intact and that the staying division is his for the taking if he remains sound and in good heart. And this has proved that he does. Now, this is not a very strongly run race, nor was this race when he won it a couple of years ago. He came home pretty strongly, though, finishing speed percentage for him of 110.45. Remember, that's for a stayer. That's for a horse that stays 2 miles plus. He's not devoid of speed at all, able to come home 10% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than he ran the rest of the race. That is pretty impressive on his seasonal reappearance. He's got a nice lead now at this point from Queenstown, and he totally dominates an inferior field throughout the final 3 furlongs. 37.15 for him. and the runner-up 37.76. And you'll see once again from Ryan Moore, rather like on Camille Pesero, he was not hard on this horse whatsoever, and he looked like a fresh horse when he pulled up. And I just think that he is intact and ready to head to Royal Ascot, perhaps with that one more run under his belt. He's got an entry in the Yorkshire Cup. He's got an entry in the Coronation over 1.5 miles as well, but I suspect it could be the Savile Beg once again for him. He's definitely back to something like the old Kyprios. What I like about him is he's a stayer with speed, and that's evidenced by the sectionals. If you look at the sectionals that RaceIQ produce, well, the 13th furlong here, he went 11.98. Now, they've been dawdling along really in 13-plus second furlongs. But when Ryan Moore asks him, he finds, and that's been the hallmark of his career, really. He finds loads for pressure, and Ryan doesn't ask him for a right lot, but Kyprios will do enough. He's on the bridle there. They're all gone in behind. I don't think that the form of the race is worth absolutely nothing. But what we know is that he's in great heart, and we know that that little change of gear is still there. And I suspect that if Ryan wanted a bit more, there would have been a bit more in the tank. He gives him a little flick, shows him the whip. He's picked up for him. He gives him a little flick there as well. And away he goes. I think there would have been a lot more if Ryan had really asked him for maximum. He's only getting going at the line. Ryan pulled him up really quickly. You see here, look, I thought it was quite interesting. He pulled him up really fast. I think he was just anxious that he didn't want to, the horse had just got running at the line, and he didn't want him going and doing another 3 furlongs round the track. But this is the head-on of him cruising all over his stable companion and then firing that sub-12 second furlong. Not to be underestimated, that. Well, stayers can't do that. They just keep rolling along. But he's got a turn of pace. And at 2-1 for the Gold Cup at Royal Ascot at the moment, well, he could be odds on the day. That might look a very big price come the Royal meeting. Let's have a look and sum up what he did out there. This is a RaceIQ summary of his sectionals, how the race was run. 3 minutes 11.5 his final time. He won 3 1/4 lengths in the end. And 38.23 was how he came home in the final 3 furlongs. There's that quick furlong I referred to. Look, it was the penultimate furlong, 11.98. There's a 12.03 from Yashin, but nowhere near as good as Kyprios with his 11.98. 110.45 he came home. He's still got it. The engine's intact. And I think Royal Ascot beckons for Kyprios. He'll be really, really hard to beat. So last week could prove to be very informative as far as the future is concerned. Arabian Crown, he'll head to Epsom. I think he's got a chance of being placed. Bellum, Justum as well. He'll go there too, although I think he's got to find plenty of improvement if he's going to get involved in the Derby. I also think that we perhaps saw a horse will go very close in the Coventry, and Camille Pesaro. Navan, Kyprios is back, and he'll be heading for the Gold Cup at Royal Ascot. And Ciola, I think, is a horse we'll see at Royal Ascot as well. So some very informative races, I think, this week on The Verdict. I hope you enjoyed having a look back at them. I'll see you next time.